What is up, my friends? This is it. Bookmark, chucking it. Because after tonight, we are done, son. We have 26 pages. I guess it's 27 pages. But there's also a page break there somewhere. So, anywho, I'm excited to finish this book up. Third book. Starting book 2 tomorrow night. I hope you continue to join me. I will read this week every night. I'm planning on reading every night. Then next week, I'll read. Next week, I think, is when I'm going to go to my new schedule, which I think I'm going to read Sunday, Tuesday, Friday. It's tough when my sons are here to read, no offense. But anyways, let me think about it. But I think that's what we're going to go with. I think we're going to go with Sunday. Yeah, Sunday, Tuesday, Friday sounds pretty good. All right. So where did we leave off? Oh, the battle with Bernie Kosar. Bernie Kosar ain't a dog, right? He's a chimera. And he battles and he saves John. And that's where we leave him. But he's down, right? He's down and he's hurt. So chapter 33, the hazy image sharpens. Through the exhaustion and pain and fear, a smile comes to my face, coupled with a sense of relief. Henry. He throws the shotgun into the bushes and he drops to one knee beside me. His face is bloodied, his shirt and jeans are tattered, cuts down the length of both arms on his neck and beyond, and I see that his eyes are fear-stricken from what he sees in mine. Is it over, I ask? Shh, he says. Tell me. Have you been stabbed by one of their daggers? My back, I say. He closes his eyes and he shakes his head. He reaches into his pocket and he removes one of the small round stones I watched him grab from the lower chest. Before we left the home ec room, his hands are shaking. Open your mouth, he says. He inserts one of the stones. Keep it under your tongue. Don't swallow it. He hefts me up with his hands beneath my armpits. I get to my feet and he keeps an arm on me while I regain balance. He turns me around and he looks at the gash on my back. My face feels warm. A sort of rejuvenation blooms through me from the stone. My limbs still ache with exhaustion, but enough strength has returned so I'm able to function. What is this? Lauric salt. It'll slow and it'll numb the dagger's effects, he says. You'll feel a burst of energy, but it won't last long, and we have to get back to the school as quickly as we can. The pebble is cold in my mouth, tastes nothing like salt, tastes nothing like nothing at all, actually. I look down and I take inventory. Then I brush off my hands, the ashen residue left from the fallen beast. Is everyone okay, I ask? 6 has been hurt badly, he says. Sam is carrying her back to the truck as we speak. Then he's going to drive to the school with his pickup. That's why we have to get back there. Have you seen Sarah? No. Mark James was just here. I say, and I look at him. I thought you were with him. Or I thought you were him. Excuse me. I didn't see him. I look past Henry at the dog. Bernie Kosar, I say. He is still shrinking. The scales fading away, tan, black, brown hair taking their place, returning to the form in which I've known him most recently. Floppy ears, short legs, long body, a beagle with a cold, wet nose, always ready to run. He saved my life, didn't you? Of course I knew. Why didn't you tell me? Because he watched over you when I couldn't. But how is he here? He was on the ship with us. And then I remember what I thought was a stuffed animal that used to play with me. It really was Bernie Kosar. and I was playing with him. Though back then, his name was Hadley. We walked we walked to the dog together, and I crouch down and I run my hands over Bernie's side. We have to hurry, Henry says. Bernie Kosar isn't moving. The woods are alive, swarming with shadows that can only mean one thing, but I don't care. I move my head to the dog's ribcage. Ever so faintly, I hear the thump of his heart beating. Some glimmer of life is left. He's covered in deep cuts and gashes, and the blood seems to seep from everywhere. His front leg is twisted in an unnatural angle, broken, but he is still alive. I lift him as gently as I can, cradling him like a child. Henry helps me, then reaches into his pocket. He grabs another salt pebble and plops it into his own mouth. It makes me wonder if he was talking about himself when he said there wasn't time. Both of us are unsteady, and then something catches my eye in Henry's thigh. A wound glowing navy blue through the gathering blood around it. He's also been stabbed by a soldier's knife. I wonder if the salt pebble is the only reason he's now standing, as it is for me. What about the shotgun, I ask. I'm out of ammo. We walk out of the clearing, taking our time. Bernie Kosar doesn't move in my hands, but I can feel that life has not left him. Not yet. We exit the woods, leaving behind us overhanging branches and the bushes and the smell of wet and rotting leaves. Do you think you can run, Henry asks. No, I say, but I'll run anyway. Up ahead of us, we hear a great commotion, several grunts followed by clanking of chains. And then we hear a roar, not quite as sinister as the others, but loud enough to know that it can only mean one thing, another beast. You're kidding me, Henry says. Twigs snap behind us. Coming from the woods, Henry and I both twist around, but the woods are too dense to see. I snap a light on my left hand and sweep it through the trees. There must be 7 or 8 soldiers standing in the entrance of the woods, and when my light hits them, they all draw their swords, which come alive, glowing their various colors the second they do. No, Henry yells. Don't use your legacies. It'll weaken you. But it's too late. I snap the light off. Vertigo and weakness return, then the pain. I hold my breath and I wait for the soldiers to come charging at us. But they don't. There follows no sound aside from the obvious struggle happening straight ahead of us. Then an uproar of yells behind us. I turn to look. The glowing swords begin staggering forward from 40 feet away. A confident laugh comes from one of the soldiers. 9 of them armed and full of strength versus 3 of us broken and battered and armed with nothing more than our valor. The beast one way, the soldiers the other. That is the choice we now face. Henry seems unfazed. He removes 2 more pebbles from his pocket and he hands me one. The last 2, he says, his voice shaky as if he requires a great effort to speak. I plop the new pebble in my mouth and bury it beneath my tongue despite the small bit of the first one still remaining. Renewed strength rushes through me. What do you think, he asks me. We are surrounded. Henry and Bernie Kosar and I are the only 3 left. 6 badly hurt and carried away by Sam. Mark just here, but now nowhere to be found. And that leaves Sarah, who I pray is tucked away safely in the school. Whoops. Tucked away in the school. There. Who I pray is tucked away in the school safely. That lies 1/10 of a mile ahead of us. I take a deep breath and I accept the inevitable. I don't think it matters, Henry, I say, and I look at him. But the school is ahead of us, and that is where Sam will be shortly. What he does next catches me off guard. He smiles. He reaches his hand out and he gives my shoulder a squeeze. My eyes are tired and red, but in them I see relief, a sense of serenity, as though he knows it's all about to end. We've done all we could, and what's done is done. But I'm damn proud of you, he says. You did amazing today. I always knew you would. There was never a doubt in my mind. I drop my head. I don't want him to see me cry. I squeeze the dog, and for the first time since I've grabbed him, he shows a slight sign of life. lifting his head just enough so he can lick the side of my face. He passes one word to me, and the only word, as if it is all the strength will allow. Courage, Bernie Kosar says. I lift my head. Henry steps forward and he hugs me. I close my eyes and I bury my face in his neck. He is still shaking, his body frail and weak beneath my grip. I'm sure mine is no stronger. So this is it, I think. With our heads held high, we will walk across the field to whatever waits there. At least there is dignity in that. You did damn good, he says. I open my eyes. From over his shoulder, I see the soldiers are near. 20 feet away now. They have stopped walking. One of them is holding a dagger that pulsates silver and gray. The soldier tosses it in the air and catches it and hurls it at Henry's back. I lift my hand and I deflect it away, and it misses by a foot. My strength leaves me almost immediately, even though the pebble is only half dissolved. Henry takes my free arm and he drapes it over his shoulder and places his right arm around my waist. We stagger forward. The beast comes into view, looming just ahead in the center of the football field. The Magadorians follow behind us. Perhaps they are curious to see the beast in action, to see the beast kill. Each step I take becomes more effort than the one that preceded it. My heart thuds in my chest. Death is forthcoming. Of that I am terrified. But Henry is here, and so is Bernie Kosar. I'm happy not to have to face it alone. Several soldiers stand on the other side of the beast. Even if we could get past the beast, we would then have to walk straight into the soldiers who stand with drawn swords. We have no choice. We reach the field, and I expect the beast to pounce in a moment. But nothing happens. When we are within 15 feet of it, we stop. We stand leaning against each other for support. The beast is half the size of the other, but it is still big enough to kill us with no great effort of its own. Pale, almost translucent skin stretched over protruding ribs and knobby joints. Various pinkish scars run down its arms and sides. White, sightless eyes. It shifts its weight and lowers itself, then swings its head over to the grass to smell what its eyes fail to see. And I can sense us in front of it. It lets out a low groan. I feel none of the rage and malice that the other beast radiated, no desire for blood and death. There is a sense of fear, a sense of sadness. I open myself to it. I see images of torture and starvation. I see the beast locked up for all of its life here on earth. A damp cave where little light reaches, shivering through the night to stay warm, always cold and wet. I see the way the Magadorians pit the beasts against one another, force them to fight in order to train, to strengthen them, and to make them mean. Henry lets go of me. I can't hold Bernie Kosar any longer. I gently place him on the grass at my feet. I haven't felt him move in minutes, and I cannot tell if he's still alive. I take one step forward and I drop to my knees. The soldiers yell around us. I don't understand their language, but I can tell by their tones that they are becoming impatient. One swings his sword and a dagger that just misses me. A flash of white, that flutters and tears the front of my shirt. I stay on my knees, and I look up at the beast hovering over me. Some weapon is fired, but it sails over our heads. A warning shot, meant to move the beast into action. The beast quivers. The second dagger darts through the air, and it hits the beast in the lower elbow of its left arm. It lifts its head, and it roars in pain. I am sorry, I try to tell it. I am sorry for your life. You've been forced to live. You've been wronged. No living creature deserves such treatment. You've been forced to endure hell. Plucked from your own planet to fight a war that isn't yours. Beaten and tortured and starved. The blame for all the pain and agony you've experienced lies within them. You and I share a common bond, both wronged by these monsters. I try with everything to pass along my own images, the things that I've seen and felt. The beast doesn't look away. My thoughts on some level are reaching it. I show it Lorien, the vast oceans, the thick forests, the verdant hills, teeming with life and vitality. animals drinking from the cold blue waters, a proud people content to pass the days in harmony. I show it the hell that followed, the slaying of men, women, and children, the Magadorians, cold-blooded murderers, draconian killers destroying, all that lies within their path due to their own recklessness and pathetic beliefs, destroying even their own planet. Where does it end? I show it Sarah. Show it every emotion that I've ever felt for her. Happiness and bliss. This is how I feel with her. And this is the pain I feel in having to leave her. All because of them. Help me, I say. Help me end this death and slaughter. Let us fight together. I have so little left, but if you stand with me, I'll stand with you. The beast lifts its head to the sky and it roars. A roar both long and deep. The Magadorians can sense what is happening and have seen enough. Their weapons begin firing. I look over, and one of the cannons is aimed right at me. It fires, and the white death surges forth. But the beast drops its hand in time and absorbs the shot instead. Its face twists in pain. Its eyes squeeze tightly shut, but almost immediately they snap back open. This time I see rage. I fall face first in the grass. I'm grazed by something, but I don't know what it is. Henry cries out in pain behind me, and he is flung 30 feet away, his body lying in the mud, face up, smoking. I have no idea what just hit him. Something big and deadly. Panic and fear hit me. No, Henry, I think. Please, not Henry. The beast throws a hard, sweeping blow that takes out several of the soldiers and quiets many of their guns. Another roar. I look up and I see the beast's eyes have turned red, ablaze with fury, retribution, mutiny. It looks my way once and it swiftly rushes off to follow its captors. Guns blaze, but many of them are quick to be silenced. Kill them all, I think. Oh my goodness, excuse me. Fight nobly and honorably, and may you kill them all. I lift my head. Bernie Kosar is motionless in the grass. Henry, 30 feet away, is motionless as well. I place a hand in the grass and I pull myself forward. Across the field, inch by inch, dragging myself to Henry. When I get there, his eyes are open slightly. Each breath is a fight. Trails of blood run from his mouth and nose. I take him into my arms and I pull him into my lap. His body is frail and weak, and I can feel him dying. His eyes flutter open. He looks at me and he lifts his hand and he presses into the side of my face. The second he does, I begin to cry. I'm here, I say, and he tries to smile. I'm so sorry, Henry, I say. I'm so sorry. We would have left when you wanted to. Shh, he says. It's not your fault. I'm so sorry, I say between sobs. You did great, he says in a whisper. You did so great, and I always knew you would. We have to get to the school, I say. Sam could be there. Listen to me, John. Everything, he says. Everything you need to know is in the chest. The letter. It's not over. We can make it. I can feel him begin to go. I shake him. His eyes reluctantly reopen. A trail of blood runs from his mouth. Coming here to paradise, it wasn't by chance. I don't know what it means. Read the letter. Henry, I say, and reach down and I wipe the blood from his chin. He looks me in the eyes. You are Lorian's legacy, John. You and the others. The only hope the planet has left, the secrets, he says, and is gripped by a fit of coughs. More blood. His eyes close again. The chest, John. I pull him more tightly to me, squeezing him. His body is going slack. Breaths are shallow. They are hardly breaths at all. We'll make it back together, Henry. Me and you, I promise, I say, and I close my eyes. Be strong, he says, and is overtaken by slight coughs, though he tries to speak through them. This war can win. Find the others. 6. The power of, he says, and trails off. I try to stand with him in my arms, but I have nothing left. Hardly enough strength to even breathe. Off in the distance, I hear the beast roar. Cannons are still being fired. The sounds of lights sounds and lights of which reach out over the stadium bleachers. But as each minute passes, less and less of them are being fired until there is only one. I lower Henry in my arms. I place my hand to the side of his face, and he opens his eyes and he looks at me for what I know will be the final time. He takes a weak breath and exhales, and then slowly closes his eyes. I wouldn't have missed a second of it, kiddo. Not for all of Lorien. Not for the whole damn world, he says. And when that last word leaves his mouth, I know that he is gone. I squeeze him in my arms, shaking, crying. Despair and happiness and hopelessness, taking hold. His hand drops lifelessly to the grass. I cup his head in my hand and I hold it close to my chest. I rock him back and forth and I cry like I've never cried before. The pendant around my neck glows blue, grows heavy for just a split second, and then dims to normal. I sit in the grass and I hold Henry while the last cannon falls silent. The pain leaves my body, and with the cold of the night, I feel my own self begin to fade. The moon and the stars shine overhead. I hear the cackle of laughter carried in the wind. My ears attuned to it. I turn my head. Through the dizziness and blurriness vision, I see a scout 15 feet away from me. Long trench coat, hat pulled to his eyes. It drops the coat and it takes off his hat to reveal a pale and hairless head. It reaches to the back of its belt and it removes a Bowie knife, the blade of which is no less than 12 inches long. I close my eyes. I don't care anymore. The scout's raspy breathing comes my way. 10 feet, then 5. Grunts in pain and begins gurgling. I open my eyes and the scout's so close I can smell it. The Bowie knife falls from its hand and there is a chest. And there, in its chest, where I assume its heart must be, is the end of a butcher's knife. The knife is pulled free. The scout drops to its knees and falls to its side. It explodes in a puff of ash. Behind it, holding the knife in her shaky right hand with tears in her eyes, stands Sarah. She drops the knife and she rushes over to me, wrapping her arms around me and my arms around Henry. I hold Henry as my own head falls and the world dims into nothingness. The aftermath of war, the school destroyed, the trees fallen, and heaps of ash piles in the grass of the football field. And I still hold Henry, and Sarah holds me. Whoa! Henry is gone. Chapter 34, my friends. Chapter 34. We're finishing this bad boy tonight. We're doing fine. We got 14 pages. Images flicker, each one bringing its own sorrow Images flicker, each one bringing its own sorrow or its own smile. Sometimes both. At the very most, an impenetrable and sightless black, and at best, a happiness so bright that it hurts the eyes to see. Coming and going on some unseen projector, perpetually turned by an invisible hand. One, then another, and then the hollow click of the shutter. Now stop. Freeze this frame. Pluck it down and hold it close and be damned by what you see. Henry always said, the price of a memory is the memory of the sorrow it brings. A warm summer day in the cool grass with the sun high in the cloudless sky. The air coming off the water, carrying the freshness of the sea. A man walks up to the house, briefcase in hand. A younger man, brown hair cut short, freshly shaven, dressed casually. A sense of nervousness by the way he switches his briefcase from one hand to the other. And the thin layer of sweat glistening on his forehead. He knocks out the door. Whoa. What? What's the matter? What's the matter? Stella's yelling at me. My grandfather answers, opens the door for the man to enter, then closes it behind him. I resume my romping in the yard. Hadley changes forms, flying, then dodging, then charging, wrestling with me Relax. Wrestling with me, laughing until it hurts. The day passing as time only can under the reckless abandon of childhood's invincibility and of innocence. 15 minutes pass, maybe less. At the age of the day, at the age a day can last forever. A door slams and closes, and I look up. My grandfather is standing with the man I had seen approach, both of them looking down at me. There is somebody I would like you to meet, he says. I stand from the grass and I clap my hands together to knock the dirt away. This is Brandon, my grandfather says. He is your C-Pan. Do you know what that means? I shake my head. Brandon, that was his name. All these years, and now it comes back to me. It means he's going to be spending a lot of time with you from here on out. The two of you, it means, are connected. I nod and I walk to the man and I offer him my hand, as I have seen done many times by grown men before. The man smiles and drops to a knee. He takes my small hand in his right, and he closes his fingers around it. Pleased to meet you, sir, I say. Bright, kind eyes, full of life, look at me as though offering a promise, a bond. Yet I am too young to know what that promise or bond really means. Excuse me. He nods and he brings his left hand to the top of his right. My tiny hand somewhere lost in the middle. He nods at me, still smiling. My dear child, he says, the pleasure is all mine. I am jolted away and I lie on my back, my heart racing, breathing heavily as though I'd been running. My eyes stay closed, but I can tell that the sun has just risen and the long shadows and the crispness of the air in the room. I'm going to sneeze. Hold on. Excuse me. Pain returns, my limbs still heavy. With the pain comes another pain, a pain far greater than any physical ailment I could ever be afflicted with the memory of the hours before. I take a deep breath and I exhale. A single tear rolls down the side of my face. I keep my eyes closed, an irrational hope that if I don't find the day, then the day won't find me, that the things in the night will be nullified. My body shudders, a silent cry turning into a hard one. I shake my head and I let it in. I know that Henry is dead and that all the hope in the world won't change it. Oh, excuse me. Oh, excuse me. I feel movement besides me. I tense myself and I try to remain motionless so as not to be detected. A hand reaches up and touches the side of my face, a delicate touch with love. My eyes come open, adjusting to the post-dawn light until the ceiling of a foreign room comes into focus. I have no idea where I am, nor how I could have gotten here. Sarah is sitting next to me. She brings her hand to the side of my face and traces my brow with her thumb. She leans down and kisses me, a soft, lingering kiss that I wish I could bottle and save for all time. She pulls away and I take a deep breath and I close my eyes and I kiss her on the forehead. Where are we, I ask. A hotel 30 miles from paradise. How did I get here? Sam drove us, she says. I mean, from the school. What happened? I remember that you were with me last night, but I don't remember a thing after, I say. It almost seems like a dream. I waited on the field with you until Mark arrived, and he carried you to Sam's truck. I couldn't stay hidden any longer. Being in the school without knowing what was happening out there was killing me. And I felt like I could help, and I felt like I could help someone. You certainly helped, I say. You saved my life. I killed an alien, she says, as though the fact still hasn't settled in. She wraps her arms around me, her hand resting on the back of my head. I try to sit up. I make it halfway on my own, and then Sarah helps me the rest of the way, pushing on my back but being careful not to touch the wound left by the knife. I swing my feet over the edge of the bed, and I reach down and feel the scars around my ankle, counting them with the tips of my fingers. Still only 3. And in this way, I know that 6 has survived. I'd already accepted the fate of the rest of my days being spent alone. An internet, sorry, an itinerant, wanderer with no place to go. But I won't be alone. Six is still here. Six is with me. My tie to the past world. Is Six okay? Yes, she says. She's been stabbed and shot, but she seems to be doing okay now. I don't think she would have survived, but Sam, had Sam not had carried her to the truck. Where is she? In the room next door with Sam and Mark. I stand. My muscles and joints ache in protest. Everything stiff and sore. I'm wearing a clean t-shirt and a pair of mesh shorts. My skin is fresh with the smell of soap. The cuts have been cleaned and bandaged, a few of them stitched. Did you do all of this, I ask? Most of it. The stitches were hard. We only had the ones Henry put in your head to go as an example. Sam helped with them. I look at Sarah sitting on the bed, her legs pulled underneath her. Something else catches my eye. A small mass that has been shifted beneath the blanket at the foot of the bed. I tense, and immediately my mind returns to the weasels that sped across the gym. Sarah sees what I'm looking at, and she crawls to the bottom of the bed on her hands and knees. There's somebody here who wants to say hello, she says, then takes the corner of the blanket gently and peels it back to reveal Bernie Kosar sleeping away. Are you Bernie Kosar? Are you like Bernie Kosar? No. A metal splint goes the length of his front leg. His body is covered with cuts and gashes that, like mine, have been cleaned and are already beginning to heal. His eyes slowly open and adjust, eyes rimmed with red, full of exhaustion. He keeps his head on the bed, but his tail gives a subtle wag, softly thumping against the mattress. Bernie, I say, and I drop to my knees before him. I place my hand softly on his head. I can't stop smiling, and the tears of joy surface. His small body is curled into a ball, head resting on his front paws, his eyes taking me in, battle-scarred and wounded, but still here to tell the tale. Bernie Kosar, you made it through. I owe my life to you, I say, and I kiss the top of his head. Sarah runs her hand down the length of his back. I carried him to the truck while Mark carried you. Mark, I'm sorry I ever doubted him, I say. She lifts one of Bernie Kosar's ears. He turns and sniffs at her hand and then licks it. So, is it true what Mark said? That Bernie Kosar grew 30 feet tall and killed a beast almost double his size? I smile. A beast triple his size. Bernie Kosar looks at me. Liar, he says. I look down and I wink at him. I stand back up and I look at Sarah. All of this, I say, all of this happened so fast. How are you handling it? She nods. Handling what? The fact that I've fallen in love with an alien, which I only found out about 3 days ago, then just happened to walk headlong into the middle of a war? Yeah, I'm handling that okay. I smile at her. You're an angel. Nah, she says, I'm just a girl crazy in love. Aww. She gets up from the bed and wraps her arms around me. We stand in the center of the room holding one another. You really have to leave, don't you? I nod. She takes a deep breath and exhales shakily, willing herself not to cry. More tears in the past 24 hours than I have ever witnessed in all the years of my life. I don't know where you have to go or what you have to do, but I'll wait for you, John. Every bit of my heart belongs to you, whether you asked for it or not. I pulled her to me, and mine belongs to you, I say. I walk across the room. Sitting on the top of the desk is the Lorick chest. 3 packed bags, Henry's computer, and all the money from the last withdrawal he had made in the bank. Sarah must have rescued the chest from the home ec room. I placed my hand on it. All the secrets Henry had said, all of them contained within this. In time, I'll open and discover them, but the time is certainly not now. And what did it mean about paradise? That our coming here wasn't by chance. Did you pack my bags? I asked Sarah, who was standing behind me. Yes. And it was probably the hardest thing that I've ever had to do. I lift my bag from the table, and beneath it is a manila envelope carrying my name across the front of it. What is this? I ask. I don't know. I found it in Henry's bedroom. He went there. We went there after leaving the school. We tried to grab everything we could. Then we came here. I open the envelope and I pull out the contents. All of the documents Henry had created for me, birth certificates, social security cards, visas, and so on. I count through them. 17 different identities, 17 different ages. On the very front sheet is a sticky note in Henry's writing. It reads, just in case. After the last sheet is another sealed envelope, across which Henry has written my name. A letter. The one that we had been talking about just before he died. I don't have the heart to read it now. I look out the window of the hotel room. A light snow sits down from the low gray clouds overhead. The ground is too warm for any of it to stick. Sarah's car and Sam's father's blue truck, are parked beside each other in the lot. As I stand looking down at them, a knock sounds at the door. Sarah opens it and Sam and Mark walk into the room. 6 limps behind them. Sam hugs me, says he's sorry. Thank you, I say. How do you feel? 6 asks. She is no longer wearing the suit, is now dressed in a pair of jeans she wore when I first saw her, and one of Henry's sweatshirts. I shrug. I'm okay, sore and stiff. My body feels heavy. She lifts her shirt and shows me the gash in her side. Then a different one on her back. All told, she was stabbed 3 times last night, and that's not to mention the various cuts over the rest of her body. Or the shot that left a deep gash in her right thigh. Now wrapped tightly with gauze and tape, the reason for her limp. She tells me that by the time we made it back, it was too late to be healed by the stone. It amazes me that she is even alive. Sam and Mark are wearing the same clothes as the day before, both filthy and covered in mud and dirt, with smatterings of blood mixed in, both with heavy eyes as though they haven't yet slept. Mark stands behind Sam, shifting his weight uncomfortably. Sam, I always knew you were a wrecking machine, I say. He laughs uncertainly. Are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine, I say. How about you? Doing okay. I look over his shoulder to Mark. Sarah told me you carried me off the field last night. Mark shrugs. I was happy to help. You saved my life, Mark. He looks me in the eye. I think every one of us saved somebody at some point last night. Hell, 6 saved me on 3 separate occasions, and you saved my 2 dogs on Saturday. I say we're even. I somehow manage to smile. Fair enough, I say. I'm just happy to find that you're not the dick that I thought you were. He half grins. Let's just say that if I had known you were an alien and could kick my ass at will, I might have been a little nicer to you on that first day. 6 walks across the room and looks at my bags atop the table. We really should get going, she says, and then looks at me with implicit concern, her face softening. There's really only one thing left undone. We weren't sure what you wanted us to do. I nod. I don't need to ask to know what she is talking about. I look at Sarah. It's going to happen much sooner than I thought. My stomach turns, and I feel as though I could vomit. Sarah reaches out and takes a hold of my hand. Where is he? I ask. The ground is damp with melting snow, and I hold Sarah's hand in mine, and we pass through the woods in silence. A mile away from the hotel, Sam and Mark walk in the lead, following the muddy footprints they created a few hours before. Up ahead, I see a slight clearing, in the center of which is Henry's body. It's been laid out on a slab of wood. He's wrapped with a gray blanket pulled from his bed. I walk to him. Sarah follows and places a hand on my shoulder. The others stand behind me. I pull the blanket down to see him. His eyes are closed, his face is gray, and his lips are blue from the cold. I kiss his forehead. What do you want us to do, John? Six says. We can bury him if you want. We can also cremate him. How can we cremate him? I can create fire. I thought you could only control the weather. Not the weather, the elements. I look up at her soft face, concern written upon it, but also the stress of the time at our having to leave before reinforcements arrive. I don't answer. I look away and I squeeze Henry a final time with my face close to his, and I lose myself in grief. I'm so sorry, Henry. I whisper in his ear. I close my eyes. I love you. I wouldn't have missed a second of it either. Not for anything, I whisper. I'm going to take you back yet. Somehow I'm going to get back to Lorien. We always joked about it, but we always joked about it, but you were my father, the best father I could have ever asked for. I'll never forget you, not for a minute, as long as we live. I love you, Henry, and I always did. I let go of him and I pull the blanket back over his face and lay him gently on the wooden slab. I stand and I hug Sarah, and she holds me until I stop crying. I wipe the tears away from the back of my hand and I nod to Six. Sam helps me clear away the sticks and leaves, and we lay Henry's body on the ground so as not to dilute the ash with everything else. Sam lights the edge of the blanket, and Six makes the fire rage from here. We watch it burn. Not a dry eye among us. Even Mark cries. Nobody says a word. When the flames end, I gather the ashes in a coffee can that Mark was astute enough to bring from the hotel. I'll get something better the second we stop. When we walk back, I put the can on the dashboard of Sam's dad's truck. I feel comforted to know that Henry will still travel with us and that he'll look out over the roads while we leave another town, as the two of us have done so many times. We load our belongings into the back of the truck, along with Six's things and mine. Sam has also loaded in 2 bags of his own. At first, I'm confused, but then I realize that between him and Six, some agreement has been made that Sam will come with us, and I'm happy for that. Sarah and I walk back into the hotel room. The second the door closes, she takes my hand and turns me towards her. My heart is breaking, she says. I want to be strong for you right now, but the thought of you leaving is killing me. I kiss her on the head. My heart is broken already, I say. The second we get settled, I'll write, and I'll do my best to call when I know it's safe. Six pokes her head in the doorway. We really have to go, she says. I nod. She closes the door. Sarah lifts her face to mine, and we kiss standing there in the hotel room. The thought of the Magadorians returning before we've left, and thus putting her in danger yet again, is the only source of strength I can find. Else I might collapse. Else I might stay forever. Bernie Kosar still lies waiting at the foot of the bed. He wags his tail when I carefully take him into my arms and carry him out to the truck. Six starts the truck and lets it idle. I turn and I look up at the hotel, and I'm saddened that it's not the house, and that I know I'll never see it again. It's peeling wooden clapboards, broken windows, black shingles wrapped from excessive sun exposure and rain. It looks like paradise, I once told Henry, but that will no longer be true. Paradise lost. I turn and nod to Six, and she climbs into the truck, closes the door, and waits. Sam and Mark shake hands, but I don't hear what they say to each other. Sam climbs back into the truck and waits with Six. I shake Mark's hand. I owe you more than I'll ever be able to repay, I say. You don't owe me a thing, Mark says. Not true, I say. Someday. I look away and I can feel myself wanting to collapse under the sadness of leaving. My resolve is being held by a tattered string ready to snap. I nod. I'll see you again someday. Be safe out there. I take Sarah into my arms and I squeeze her tightly, never wanting to let go. I'll come back to you, I say. I promise you. If it's the last thing I do, I'll come back to you. Her face is buried in my neck and she nods. I'll count the minutes until you do, she says. One last kiss. I set her on the ground and I open the door to my truck. To the truck, excuse me. My eyes never leave hers. She covers her mouth and nose with her hands, and they are pressed together. Neither one of us is able to look away. I close the door. Six puts the truck in reverse and pulls out of the parking lot. She comes to a stop and then she puts it in gear. Mark and Sarah walk to the end of the lot and they watch us on our way, tears streaming down both sides of Sarah's face. I turn to my seat and I watch from the rear window. I lift my hand and I wave, and Mark waves back, but Sarah just watches. I watch her for as long as I can, growing smaller, one indistinct blur fading in the distance. The truck slows and turns, and both of them vanish from sight. I turn back around and I watch the field pass, and I close my eyes and I picture Sarah's face and I smile. We'll be together yet, I tell her, and until that day, you'll be in my heart and my every thought. Bernie Kosar lifts his head and he rests it in my lap. I place my hand on his back. The truck bounces down the road, driving south. The four of us, together, heading for the next town, wherever that might be. Woo! I am number 4, done, son. Tomorrow night, The Power of Six. Oh, look at this. This is what it says on the back of this book. They know about the charm. They know about our legacies. They caught number 1, number 2, number 3. They killed them all. I am number 7, one of 6 still alive. We are growing stronger. We are starting to come together. We are ready to fight. We are the last defense. Cool. Book 2, The Power of Six. All right, my friends. Well, we did it. Good book. Good book. I don't know what the summer will bring. I think we'll probably get through this book in the summer. But I really hope that you guys read on in the series. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 more books. And probably, I mean, we're reading a lot. Probably if you got them, you could read through them pretty quick. And I didn't realize that actually the last book I never read. I bought it, and I think it's when I moved. I bought it, threw it in the box, and then moved, and then I didn't even realize that I had actually purchased it. So that's, I think, I guess the last 2 books that I got them when they came out because they're in hardcover. All right. So a quick run through of the news, my friends. All right. I'm confuzzled. I'm really kind of confuzzled here. So apparently today, the governor has said, I don't know if you guys heard this, but apparently the governor has said that outdoor graduations can happen. So apparently outdoor graduations of 150 people or less can take place. How do we do that? Not a lot of schools have, think about it. Like, Middleburg has like 70 kids in the graduating class, but I guess that they would need they could only invite like 1 person, I guess. But I guess they announced that today. I don't get it, but all right. So 45 people died today or I guess I should say in the last 24 hours. And actually, Friday into Saturday, it was only 35, which had been the lowest it had been for quite some time. I guess the amount of people getting sick is still going the direction it needs to go. However, that's here in New York. So across the country, especially in the South and the West, what I guess would be West for you guys would be that way. Numbers are going up at a faster rate than they have at any time in all of this. So that's no bueno. So is New York on the right path? Yes. Is the country? It doesn't look like it, right? And again, on top of everything that's happening with the coronavirus, these protests are now spilled seltzer on myself. The protests are just continuing to grow. So this is the 13th night in a row. There are now curfews in literally like hundreds of New York cities. Sorry, hundreds of U.S. cities. Here are the big ones: Atlanta, Buffalo, Chicago, Dallas, Denver, LA, Minneapolis, New York City, Philadelphia, St. Paul, Washington, D.C. On top of the fact that apparently today, not that this is a major city or these are major cities, but apparently today the mayors of Menands, Waterville, and Green Island have all declared states of emergency. Oh, excuse me. And have now instituted curfews there. So around where we live, and I don't know if the state of emergency and curfew is still in effect in Schenectady. I didn't see that on the news today. But it's, people were worried about this police state and losing freedoms, because of what was going on with the coronavirus. Well, think about what's happening as a result of this protesting and rioting. And I'm not saying for an instant, not saying one instant that it's wrong and it should be stopped. Not saying that at all. People protesting, it is their right to peacefully protest, just like Miss Stella is doing here right now. She's just peacefully coming up and protesting that I'm not giving her enough attention. Oh. However, the rioting is getting a little out of control. And again, well, it's not just, it's been. But today, I saw something today that, you wouldn't expect. Like if I showed you this photograph, you'd probably go, oh man, that's from like Mobile, Alabama. Or, that's a picture from Louisiana or Georgia. And it was a guy holding up a Confederate flag. He was with a couple other people. They were holding up Confederate flags, and on his shirt, it had like 5. It was a black shirt, and it had 5 KKK members. Just the pointed hoods, right? And it said underneath it, the original Boys in the Hood. And I thought to myself, holy cow. Freedom of speech. I mean, you've got the right to say it. Anyways, that man was with his friends and holding the Confederate flags and wearing that shirt in Fort Plain. So if you get on I-90 and you go out towards Buffalo, right, you're headed in that direction. You go past Amsterdam, and then on the southern side of I-90, you'll come to Canajoharie and then Fort Plain. So, I don't know, what is that? 40 miles outside of Albany? Yeah, I don't know. So, I mean, this is what's creating the problems. What's creating the problems is that there are people antagonizing the people that are peacefully protesting. and those people have the right to do it. But this is what's creating the tension. Apparently, in Texas, oh, I believe now that I'm thinking about it, it might not have been in Texas because I read so many of these today. We talked about the man in Buffalo. Those two police officers, I think, are being fired. They were suspended, and I believe now they're being fired. In Texas, a kid went to a peaceful protest. The police ended up using the beanbag bullets, right? They, like shotguns, and they shoot these compressed beanbags. Apparently, hit a kid in the head, and now the kid is like brain dead or something like that. And then another riot or another peaceful protest. I guess police officers ended up getting involved in like pushing the crowd back or whatever. And I guess they were kind of antagonizing the crowd, somebody in the crowd, and this is wrong, totally wrong, through some kind of Molotov cocktail, which, more than likely the police were right to respond the way they did. But it's just, I don't know how we got here. Like we were coming together. I thought we were coming together. We were trying to fight this disease and this virus. And now our country's just being ripped apart. Athletes are jumping out on this. Tons of different people are jumping out and saying, yes, we know that racism exists. We didn't say anything before. We were wrong to do it, right? So it's kind of crazy. Sometimes from the lightness or what is it? Only the light can come from the dark, right? So something like that. So maybe we needed all this darkness. We needed this real dark time to show us that, we've got to make a stand, and we've got to come together in a different way. So yeah, it's intense, my friends. It's intense. I will say that. This is the other thing. Apparently, the Minneapolis. I don't know how many of you guys saw this. Apparently, the Minneapolis City Council has officially disbanded their police department. Oh, I went to a peaceful protest today in Troy. It was really empowering and thankfully never became violent. Good for you, Christina. Good for you. I think if I saw it correctly, they said that 11,000 people came out in Troy, I think is what I saw on the news. But I don't know if something came from that, because if you think about where Troy is, you have Menands on the other side of the river, you have Green Island on the other side of the river, and then you have Waterville. So I'm not sure if from that peaceful protest, something else came from. I hope not. But protest is what our country's all about. It's how we started. If you think about the Boston Massacre, why do we have those First Amendment rights? Well, we have those First Amendment rights because people wanted to go, and they just had some problems, and they wanted to talk to the colonial governor about it. And instead, what ensued was, the British Redcoats firing and killing 5 people, 5 colonists. And, from that event, it's such a watershed and seminal moment in the American, the revolution doesn't begin then, but what empowers people to jump on the side of the revolution. But good for you. Good for you. What else we got? Where I was, they said only about 3,000 showed up. Okay. Yeah, somewhere locally, I know on the news, they said there were about 11,000 people. Well, and that's good for you. I'm proud of you getting out there and exercising your First Amendment right. What else did I have? What else? So Colin Powell today. Colin Powell was the Secretary of State. He was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs, and I personally think is one of, I've never met him in person, but I've read a lot of his words and I've watched him speak. I think he's an incredibly brilliant man. Okay. I really do. I kind of wish that Colin Powell would, I kind of wish he would run for president. Now, he's a Republican. He is an African American. He is a Republican. He's probably, I would say besides President Obama, he has certainly reached the highest level in government, than any other, only one other African American. Oh, he has reached higher than him, and that's President Obama. But today he really ripped into President Trump, and he said that Trump is hurting our country, and what is it that he's? Oh shoot! Did I write it down? Yeah, I didn't write down exactly what it was that he said about the Donald, but he's very critical. A lot of people were really upset with Colin Powell because in 2008 he came out for Barack Obama. He says party doesn't matter. I'm voting for the right man. Color doesn't matter. And he claims that he voted for President Obama. And then in 2012, again, even though he remained a Republican, he came out for President Obama over Mitt Romney. So, the wagons are kind of circling. The other thing that I saw in the news, and I oh God, I don't even know if I should bring it up, but did I bring? I think I did bring it up the other day. This whole thing about George Floyd is looking down from heaven, and he's proud about the unemployment numbers, right? President Trump said that the other day, and that those comments went across the world. Okay, they went across the world, and people across the world are like, "What?" Anyway, now I lost what I was going to say in regards to the Donald and oh geez, wow, I totally lost it. Anyways, it'll come back to me. So other words that have kind of made it across the country and made it across the world, because I think I read this on the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation. Stella's biting me. Is a editor of a newspaper in Alabama came out and said, and please, I want you to go and fact check me here, has come out and said that this editor of a newspaper in Alabama, the KKK should begin their night rides again. So, I don't know, my friends. I really thought we were getting past all this stuff. Apparently we aren't, and I really wish we would. I hope in my lifetime we do. I hope in my lifetime we say, it just doesn't matter. If you think about people, right? If you think about all the different people of the world, what's different about us? There's one thing, right? Okay, hold on. Our skin is different colors. Our hair is different colors. Our eyes are different colors, right? Generally speaking, but everything else is the same. Us, right? All the people of the world. If you think about the thousands of things that make up a person, blood, cells, bones, organs, skin. Well, skin is an organ. All the different things. You can count them up. There's really like 2 or 3 things that are different in us. And unfortunately, we choose to focus on those few things that make us different, and we don't say, well, geez, there's 1,100 ways we're the same. Let's focus on that. And I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't think I don't think I ever will. And what I know is that people aren't born racists. A baby is not a racist. A baby is not born hating things. Okay? Racism is taught. Racism is learned. And what we need to do is we need to find a way to stamp that out as best as we possibly can. Because I don't know that we're ever going to be able to 100% eradicate racism. I don't know that we're going to be able to do that. However, I think we can get it to a point where I believe we can get it to a point where racism will give up, and racist people will give up, and racist people will come to the light and say, geez, all these years. And you know what? You hear those types of stories all the time. And I do believe that people, you can teach old dogs new tricks, right? If someone has been a racist their whole life and they're 70 years old, well, I still think you could show them that racism is wrong. So I don't think we should stop the fight. The fight is very important, but I also don't know that we can totally 100% eradicate it. And I'm just a realist that way, I guess. All right, real quick. We're doing fine on time. So on this day in 1775, my friends, the 13 colonies officially changed their name to the United States. On this day in 1893, Gandhi used his first act of civil disobedience. So, Gandhi was a huge influence in the strategies and tactics that the Southern Leadership the Southern Christian Leadership Conference used, Dr. King used. Civil disobedience. He was a lawyer, right? An Indian lawyer, but lived in South Africa. And he used civil disobedience. He was fighting against, believe it or not, segregation in trains in South Africa. On this day in 1913, today, I guess, and I didn't even know this. I guess it's been changed to, I didn't know this, Stella, Mount Denali. I didn't know that was changed. The highest peak in North America is Mount McKinley at just over 20,000 feet. And it was on this day in 1913 that the first person successfully climbed it. But now it's called Mount Denali. When did that change? On this day in 1914, the first vessel successfully went through the Panama Canal. This day, ladies and gentlemen, if the year was 1944, we would call this D-Day +1. So June 6, 1944. Thousands and thousands of men, thousands and thousands of ships, hundreds and hundreds of airplanes dropped an immense amount of airborne troops, and the ships brought, Army Rangers, Marines of, England, America, Canada. They stormed 4 beaches in Normandy in France and began the recapture of the northern part of the European theater. On this day in 1962, I thought this was kind of cool, not U.S. history, but kind of cool. So on this day in 1962, a bank in Switzerland opens the first drive-through teller at a bank. The first drive-through teller. And last but not least, on this day in 1966, this once actor now becomes the governor of California and will, 14 years later, become the president of the United States. That's right. Ronald Reagan, right? Ronald Reagan was an actor. I think he was in some Westerns, and he also did television commercials selling, I believe, cigarettes. Because he had become a famous actor. Then I believe he had become the president of the Screen Actors Guild. And I don't know what the heck Stella is doing. She's running around the coffee table. She must have knocked one of her toys there. But anyway, so for 14 years, he's the governor of California, and then he beats Jimmy Carter in the 1980 election, and he's sworn into office. He's president from January 81 to January 89. And then George Bush Sr. will follow him, who he is the vice president under Reagan. Well, there we are, my friends. It was a long day. I got a real long walk, nice, good, hard walk in this morning. Got a lot of chores done. Tig and I, my little guy, he and I got a bunch of yard work done. My older son, was working today. He was working on the farm. Then we had some lunch, and the three of us went on a nice big hike. And then we just hung out, barbecued, played some games, goofed around and such. And yeah, it was a nice day. It was a busy day, which is good. Busy is good. We're going into our last full week of school, which is awesome. Tomorrow morning, I'll be dropping your last assignment for you into Google Classroom. And Stella is going nuts. Oh, she's got one of her catnip toys. That's why she's going nuts. And that's it. We'll call it quits. One little over a week left, and that's it. Then we go off to summer. And hopefully we're back together September 9th. September 9th is scheduled to be the first day of school in the new school year. So we'll see how it goes. A lot of things have changed. Again, they're allowing these outdoor graduations. They're also now saying that students with special needs need to get in-school schooling in summer school, and if we are not back, if we're not totally back in the fall, that's got to happen so I don't know how all this is going to be managed. I'm glad I'm not the person making these decisions, but I certainly hope they take the teachers. I hope they take our thoughts and concerns in on this. And, I have a lot of hope that we're going to be back in school. I'm really thinking that I think with the way things are moving, I think we might be back. But I think that what everybody's going to have to do is maybe when we go back, it's going to have to be something like, right at the end of fourth period, you go to your locker. Remember that thing you have, the locker that you never use? You go to your locker, you get your lunch, you come back, and you eat in your teacher's classroom. I think we're going to see something like that. And that's how we're going to get through it. I think that like big PE classes and some of the other bigger classes, they're not going to be able to do it the way that they had been doing it for the time being. But I do think, I'm starting to hope that and think that, again, we're going to be back in some way, but I'm just not sure how it's going to look. And no, I am not speaking on, speaking for the Mahonison School District. I'm making an assumption. So, anyways, my friends, I'm wiped out. I need to hit the hay. Been a long day. I'm glad we finished book 1 of I Am Number 4, the I Am Number 4 series. Tomorrow night we start The Power of 6. And we start our last full week of school. So be good, stay out of trouble, run the marathon, don't sprint. We'll get there, guys. We're almost there. Have a good night.